So first of all, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining my session. It's my third year in a row here in Timisoara, and it's always an honor to have the opportunity to speak to you. So I'm Mark Mulder. I'm with a software vendor, one of the few ones in here, since it's mostly hardware infrastructure, so I'm the odd one out today. But of course, as one does in 2025, there is AI in my presentation, and I know what it's like if you go to a lot of conferences. Everything these days has to be about AI, right? It's like the Oprah Winfrey show. Everybody gets an AI. It has to be all about AI. But actually, my presentation is much more about business processes and digitizing those business processes. And then as a cherry on the cake, we get to the AI piece. So I'm not going to bombard you with how AI is the next best thing since sliced bread. We'll get to the AI at the end of the presentation, but I want to start with the foundations. So business processes and a little bit about WEBCON. So WEBCON is the #1 in Poland when it comes to automating and digitizing business processes. So the Polish market is actually pretty similar to the Romanian market when it comes to digitization. So I think from our background and from the projects we do at WEBCON, because as a vendor we work with partners as A.EU, but we also do projects direct with customers. And I think the lessons learned from the Polish region very much apply to Romania as well. The customers that come to us and that we work with is a mix of large enterprise customers, so I would say at least a good couple of hundreds of users that are looking to optimize, to automate processes, and reducing cost, of course, as a part of that optimization. So I guess in the audience, probably there's a good couple of you that would also like to reduce costs if you can optimize and automate business processes. I certainly hope so. So a few examples of those customers. I think what's important, not so much the labels we have here, but the fact that those customers are all over the place. So it's all imaginable industries. We are about optimizing and automating business processes. So there's companies here from manufacturing, from the public sector, education, transport, retail. Every imaginable kind of company is in here because, well, everybody has business processes, right? So the platform we have really applies to any kind of organization that would like to optimize. So what do we see with these companies? And definitely in Poland, of course, every company has some IT systems already in place, but they're pretty expensive. Optimizing them, the licenses, maintaining them cost quite a lot of money. So when it comes to all the processes that are happening outside of those core systems, so your core ERP, PLM, MES systems, there's always loads and loads of processes surrounding those systems. When it comes to digitizing those, the experience they have with software being pretty expensive sort of holds them back at actually digitizing. So what you see in a lot of situations is that actually crucial business processes are still being done manually by Excel files that we email to each other, things on my personal OneNote where I register something. So this is quite a problem, since these files and these manual email conversations hold crucial information that are not really structured, not really organized. So with our platform, we actually move those companies forward from so they start building instead of thinking about what they could realize. So we give them an enabler to really start moving forward, digitizing those processes. So WEBCON really becomes sort of a private software house, and I will get to what we do to make that able. So we become a sort of a private software house. They can use our platform to digitize without having to go to a commercial off-the-shelf solution, buy something for a specific process, but actually within WEBCON, they can build those processes themselves for a part with own resources, with the help of a partner, and they can start, instead of doing a lot of crucial business processes in Excel files, start to structure them, start to digitize them, and start to automate them. So you might wonder, why would I need a private software house to digitize my own solutions? Well, actually, there's quite a lot of reasons. Of course, if you digitize solutions, you can lower the cost because you can speed up, you can automate tasks, you have much less error in those processes since you can control what is happening. The efficiency increases due to automation. Of course, scalability. If you have a process realized, digitized in a specific part of your organization or in one specific country, and now you want to roll it out to a larger part of the organization, you can scale up really easily. So if the knowledge about a process is in somebody's head or in somebody's personal Excel file, yeah, that scalability is not really there, right? So for scaling up, really, you need to have a digital process. Reduced operational risk, of course. If knowledge is still in people's heads in personal Excel files or on my OneNote and I leave the company, so yeah, we don't have this knowledge anymore, so we have a huge risk that some processes are not going to work anymore without one specific person taking care of the process. So that is a huge risk. So by capturing processes in a platform, centralizing them, you don't have that risk of brain drain when somebody leaves the organization. Of course, like I said, we're going to be circling back to the use of AI, but I want to start at the foundations. So that is the important drivers for digitization. So if we look at the effects for our clients, and of course, I want to be realistic that the numbers we have here are quite positive numbers. Of course, I'm not going to lie to you and say that every single one of our clients will have 95% of their documents fully automated, but this is based on the total economic research done in cooperation with Forrester. So these are realistic numbers from realistic enterprise clients. Showing that if you look at document management systems, digitization of your documents, that's I think a use case very relevant also here in Timisoara in the public sector, where a lot of documents are still paper. So 95% of documents they manage to fully automate and optimize, saving obviously a huge amount of time in not dealing with paper documents, but having fully digitized solutions. And that goes for both internal processes and processes that involve external parties, where you cooperate. Think about contract management, where you're working with a second party, agreeing on a contract, an NDA, terms of agreement with the supplier. So all these kind of processes can be digitized, and like I said, research done in the total economic impact by Forrester. So how exactly do we help those organizations? If you look at the benefits of digitization, I mean, obviously this is clear. Digitization has benefits. I think that is clear for everybody. Even the most ancient organizations will realize in these times that it makes sense to digitize. You can speed things up, visibility, auditability, all these kind of things come with digitization of business processes. But if you look at the organization, you're dealing with a lot of different departments that all have their own processes that they're operating. So if your job now is as an IT department to digitize this whole picture, financial processes, operational processes, HR has a whole bunch of their own processes, it's not that simple, right? It's not that trivial to just move away from emails and Excel documents to digitize all these processes. So what will happen, I will address in a few seconds. So, of course, we as WebCon want to look at the big picture. We want to, as a platform, allow you to digitize in a broad spectrum, whether it's back office, HR, financial processes, whether you're in manufacturing and it is your quality control processes in the manufacturing line that you want to do, whether the external serviceman comes over to fix a machine in your manufacturing process, all business processes that are probably not entirely covered by those core enterprise systems that you have. So that's really what we're focusing on. But like I said, it's not that simple. And if you look at the typical situation, like I pointed out, you will have some of those enterprise systems in your organization. The ERP, maybe a CRM system, something that connects them in between. And if you now want to go digitize all the other stuff that happens around those systems, you have a few options. You can hire a team of developers and hard code them yourself. Looking at the costs and the time that that's going to take is probably not a realistic option these days. You can obviously acquire some software packages. So you have an ERP, you have Salesforce. For all the other stuff, there's probably something on the market out there. So there's something for your logistics, something for your warehouse management, for your audits, etc. Only the risk, and it doesn't matter which labels I put here and which systems it is, and it's going to be different for each company and each industry. If you go this route for digitization, you're going to run into a few issues. Because the more sort of band-aids you put on specific problems by purchasing a piece of software, you have to realize that now you probably don't need 5 of those solutions, but to cover all those processes, you probably need more like 15. Each of those programs comes with their own licensing fee. You need to implement them all. You need to deal with a different help desk. So if there's an issue, those 5 are probably going to point fingers at each other because they might be the problem and not us. So you need to raise 5 tickets in 5 different help desks. You need, of course, to integrate the whole bunch of them together before you have a working end-to-end process. So a lot of complication that you add from the IT perspective. Last but not least, there's also the cost of exit. So what if you want to move to someone else? Can you just pick your things up and go to a competitor? Or are you now, again, going through a whole new project of implementing it basically from A again? And then cost of choosing them, because before you figured out that the solution you want to use for a specific problem is the right one for you, if you're in IT, you will know what this looks like, right? Find 5 vendors that can do this, send them a tender, RFI document, compare all of them, sit down with them. It's a huge amount of time that's being consumed before you even know in which direction you're going. So this approach is not a great one. So coming back to WEBCON as a platform, what we are and our sort of mission, we are an AI-based, I mentioned I'll be coming back to the AI-based, and I will. It's a digitization platform that allows you to connect people, processes, systems, and data to each other. So with really the purpose of exploiting the full potential of your business. So the most important pillars and the most important features of the platform, AI one is the first one, but I'll come back to it at the very end of the presentation. What's more important, it's a low-code platform. So what this means is you can build those business processes, digitize them without having to code. So that means it's basically just drag and drop configuration. It's really, really easy and very, very fast to build those processes. So again, instead of having to go through software selection, finding something, or getting a team of developers to program it for you, with some drag and drop, you can build those processes. That means you can actually use a lot more of your resources to build those applications. So if you have your own IT department, let's say there's 10 people in the IT department, how many of them are skilled developers? Out of the 10, I would say probably 2 or 3, and the rest is project management, management analysts, but not developers. So due to the fact that WEBCON is a low-code platform, now probably 6 out of 10 can actually contribute to delivering applications to the business and digitizing. So from the resources perspective, that's a huge difference. You don't have to rely just on those 2 or 3 developers, so they can also take a holiday sometimes. Another very important pillar that we focus on is citizen-assisted development. So this is actually, I think, very, very important. It's where we engage the business side into delivering those applications. So I've worked a good couple of years as a business analyst, and usually if you try to get information from the business about what they need, you do some sessions, you write a Visio workflow about what sort of process they have, you open a Word document and they start typing out what exactly they need. If I'm IT, I probably get those documents delivered to me by 5 different departments in 5 completely different formats. So for me as an IT, to build sensible applications out of it is very tricky. But those business users are crucial to those applications because they know the problem, they know that we need, and the solution IT is building is for them, not for IT. So we have a rapid prototyping tool as a part of the platform that gives business and IT, or our partner and the client, a place to sit down and do very rapid prototyping. So instead of writing down your requirements on a piece of paper and not really knowing what you're getting until basically go live, you can see the whole thing coming to life as a prototype, play with it, give your feedback, and then build it out to a full application. So while we're trying to enable IT, we very much realize that if we want the whole digitization to be successful, we need to give business a place as well. And from a lot of customers where we go back half a year after go live and we ask them, well, how has WebCon impacted your business? The feedback we get is that finally business and IT are now sort of speaking to each other, they're coming together and they're working on solutions together, where before business was just complaining that IT is too slow and too expensive, and probably IT was telling us that the business doesn't really know what they need and they don't know how to explain it, right? So we're really focusing on bringing those two worlds together. An important feature of the platform that supports that is our instant change technology. What this means is that also after go live, it's really easy to change the solution you've delivered. So without going into the technical details, what this really means, and I think you all recognize this, even if you do sessions with your business user and you deliver a application with a process in it, the chances are pretty high that a month, maybe 2 months later, they will come to you and say, well, actually, we need it to be a little bit different. We need some changes. We forgot about this thing. We also need this feature, so now you need to go and change it. And if that's hard for IT, it means, well, the business is not going to be very happy. It also means that they will try, and IT will have to force them to try to get it perfect the first time, right? So if I know that changing it later on is difficult, then while describing the application, you will test it and test it again and test it again to try and get it perfect, which is really, really inefficient. So, and then last point is that we are an application factory. Like I said, we have a lot of those business processes, and we don't give you a platform to digitize 2 or 3 of those processes. So big positive thing, think about it as the, for example, Volkswagen MQB platform, right? So this is the platform that they build like 90% of their cars on. So we have a platform that gives me the foundation, and then I decide if I put a Golf on top of it, or a Passat, or a Transporter. So those platform features are features like mobile devices. So with everything you describe in WebCon is by default available on mobile. You get features like auditability. So with every feature, every process you have, auditability, traceability, transparency is always there. So that really means that you don't need to decide for this application, should we also care about this feature? Or maybe can we leave it out? It's just always going to be there. So how we build applications together using WebCon, there's basically 3 stages. You go through prototyping, there's an interface for the power user to then do the integration, the business rules, and then eventually we have the portal where users work with the applications. And the way that we like to do projects is very much an iterative approach. So I already mentioned the prototyping, instant change. We don't want to get it perfect the first time. We want to move quickly, so we can do a prototype very quickly. We can do an MVP very quickly, since it's low code. So also when it comes to costs and achieving a budget, in a lot of cases, you can sort of fly under the radar of when you need approval from all the management layers, etc., with your first solution and get a quick win delivered to the business that gives them value. And then after we have a solution live, we'll get feedback from the users, we'll make the changes we need, we'll add all these sort of nice-to-have features that we didn't need in the first version to already make some quick wins. And then we keep going in this way. So I have a few examples of companies we did these kind of projects for, but actually I want to skip over this quickly since there's a way better one, more from your area, that I want to come back to later on. But what's important here, I mean, we have a lot of customers that are with us for a very long time, actually running the same processes still after, well, in this case, this is a furniture manufacturer from Poland. We started with them 16 years ago, and some of those processes that they designed in WebCon 16 years, after a whole bunch of upgrades, new versions of the platform, etc., they are still running those same processes now with all the latest features of the platform, and actually with the latest release. They'll also be getting AI functionalities on those 16-year-old processes. And you can see in this case 273 processes, so there's a lot of things they're delivering. This is a company that is in construction, also a customer for a long time, over 400 business processes. So you can see with the customers that use the platform, in some cases they start with just a handful of processes, but once they see the possibilities of the platform, they actually realize, oh, actually this is also still on paper, and oh, actually this is also still in an email, and they add more and more of those processes into the platform. What that looks like. So if you go building, for example, an HR platform on WebCon, so you can build a landing page as a portal, for example, so your employee that works with the company gets a landing page. Now all my HR related processes I can access from a single place. So if I'm entering the company from an onboarding perspective, I have my employee profile. If I'm onboarded, of course, from an employee perspective, there's going to be a lot of things that I'm also dealing with. So I will have my personal benefits, I will have my quarterly reviews that are being done. So there's actually a lot of processes going on around this employee, and on WebCon we can put them into one place and connect everything together. So there is a skill set, for example. So as an employee, I have specific certificates or skills because of trainings that I followed, and those need to be registered. That's one thing that might be interesting when I'm being onboarded, because I'm working in a manufacturing environment and I need to have the right skills and certificates to drive a forklift through the facility. It also means that those skills and certificates come into play when it comes to those operational processes. So when I have a machine in my manufacturing facility that needs servicing, I need to know which people have the right skill set to service that machine. When are they actually available? When are they already occupied? So all these things tie into each other, from an employee that's being onboarded to a machine that is being serviced, planning processes around that, involving external parties in the machine servicing process. So it's really important having a central place to digitize all those processes, because all those things depend on each other. You can imagine if you have all those things in solutions on small islands, trying to make one consistent process out of it is really an IT nightmare of integrations and responsibilities and trying to get it all to work together. So, of course, you can design your own form. So with every process, you determine what data do we have here, what do we register, how do we go through it. You can add visual elements on those forms. So let's say I'm making a decision as a manager about a specific purchase. But to make that decision, I need to know, do I still have a budget available? Do I maybe have some similar items already in my asset management system? So a lot of process digitization solutions, once you implement them and you're the manager that needs to make a decision about the specific purchase order, and now to know if I still have a budget, I need to open my BI solution. And to know if I don't already have a similar product, I need to go to my asset management solution and log in there. And now to make one simple decision, I'm working in 3 different systems. I need, my whole desk full of screens to get all the information I need. So through integrations, we try to bring all of that information into one process. So if I'm the manager making a decision, whether it's on the desktop or on my mobile phone, I have all the information right here in front of me so I can move quickly. Of course, reports, dashboards that you need for those processes is always a big thing, because if you have processes and the things in Excel or in emails, it also means that reporting to your management is probably going to be very time-consuming and usually a bit of a nightmare, because, well, every week or every 2 weeks I need to report to management, and in order to do so, I need to dig through 4 Excel files, copy-paste information back and forth, and, losing a lot of time there. So having reports on top of every single process that you digitize makes this amount of time basically 0. Also, all those reports are always up to date, so whenever management wants to have a look, not once every 2 weeks, they can go in and have a look. It also means that those reports are going to present consistent and correct information. So if you have 15 people gathering information from Excel documents and feeding it to management, I can guarantee you that the information management is getting is not consistent, because there will be some differences in how 15 people do their work. So very, very important, different types of reports. You can play with that as you please. Other important feature is process mining and analytics. So obviously, once you have your processes digitized on the platform, you now have a great tool to actually look at how are my users working with those processes. So you can see how many processes are they doing, are they ending good or bad. You can have a look actually at the steps within the process with a heat map, seeing where are my users spending time. So you can use this as a tool to then speed up those processes, or if the management approval step is taking an exceptionally long amount of time, you might want to ask them, right? Is there something missing on the form? Is there something not clear? So not just do we allow companies to digitize those processes, we also then use that as a foundation to optimize them and speed them up even more. And of course, you don't want to feed management with sort of feelings on where we might be able to do better. You would like to present them with actually hard statistics to make founded decisions. So coming to the WEBCON BPS AI slowly. So I mentioned we're AI-powered enterprise digitization platform. So the unique capabilities, we're coming back to number 1, the AI-powered bit. And what we're enabling with the latest version of the platform is we give our users a set of agents they can use. So these give you information from a specific perspective. So they are a lawyer, for example, a translator, a content writer, and they're seamlessly integrated into your workflows. I think this is very important because, of course, AI has been around for some time now. We weren't the first platform to add it in because we really wanted to see where does it make sense, right? You can just give a prompt to any AI tool, whether it's ChatGPT or Google Gemini or whatever, and then you can ask it generic questions. I think what's really important is that here you have the context. Where are we using the AI? Which process are we in? What is the sort of situation that we're dealing with? And within that situation, of course, if you talk about a contract management process and you're asking for a document summary, for example, you would like to have a summary from a lawyer, somebody with legal experience. If I ask somebody within the organization about feedback about a legal process, I also don't go to the guy from the production floor, for example. So the AI has the context of your process. You can feed it data that it needs. Based on that, the input you will get from the AI is going to make way more sense than just being based off of a generic knowledge from the internet. So AI agents built into processes and built into your workflows. And an AI concierge. So this is sort of the higher level of an AI that you can basically ask anything. So think about data that you have in a process. Instead of defining a report that shows me the most used, I don't know, most sold item category if I'm in retail, instead of having to build a report that shows you that, you could just ask the AI concierge, like, tell me what is, in 2024 the most sold item category, or how much open registrations do I have from last month that haven't been answered yet by my help desk, for example. So all these kind of information that you have in a system, you could put it in a report, could put it in a dashboard, but with the help of AI, you have a much easier way of accessing that kind of information. So that is things we're adding to the platform, and I think a really nice one. And if you'd like to see it actually in work, the AI app builder, it would be worth coming over to the WebCon booth. I have it on my laptop, so I can show it to you in a live demo. That might be interesting. So what this does, it basically builds on our prototyping tool, but instead of you as a business user or a business analyst drawing the prototype in low code, which, like I said, is already very easy and very much drag and drop, you can actually invoke AI, and you can just tell it what process you need. So let's say I need a business trip approval process, and I want to have 2 approval steps in the process, and I want to have data in the form. You can basically write 2 sentences, and the AI will lay out the whole prototype for you. So really, in a matter of seconds, you will have a foundation you can present to business, and then you can still iteratively optimize it, improve it, and then make it into a full-blown solution. But this is really something that allows you to speed up even more. So, like I said already, the AI agents that we provide to you, lawyer, a content writer, if you need a document summarized, for example, from different perspectives, also dealing with legal documents, you don't want to go through each one of your 60-page legal agreements looking for, I don't know, the 5 biggest risks that you have in there. So you might want to use AI to present you with a summary with the 5 biggest risks, and like I said, you control it. So if this is your legal agreement process, you can ask AI to provide you a summary in a specific way with a specific writing style. If you want to have, how long should it be? Should it be bullet points or free text? In another process where you might also be dealing with documents, you might want to have a different kind of summary. So you can give it that context. So it's not just generic knowledge from the internet, from any AI. It is really tailor-made to your needs. So, like I said, AI is great. I think we all see that it makes sense in specific cases, but there is risks with AI. There's challenges. The adoption, and I think that's something we address really well by integrating it into your workflows. So it's not just generic answers you're getting. You have the whole context. You have your information, so you can feed it with data from your business processes to get an answer that makes sense. So, right, if I'm talking about the contract management process, and I actually know that the contract deadline was, is going to be tomorrow, I might want to be aware of that in the way it provides its answer, right? So the whole context you have here in your business processes really gives the AI sense. The quality of data for AI to work at all, coming back to the scenario where you used to have, paper documents and Excel files, or even if you did digitize, if you went for 5 different solutions, just imagine digitizing your process landscape with 5 or 10 different solutions. Even if all 5 of them have AI, it's going to be incoherent. All of them are just aware of their own little islands, so it's not really going to add a lot of value. Having the whole overview, data quality within those processes really makes the AI have sense. And governance. So since the way that AI is used in those processes is in the hands of IT, and you don't just give a business user an account to Google Gemini or ChatGPT to ask AI anything, you have control over it in this case. So that's also from the governance perspective, especially if you're in a regulated industry, what sort of things do we invoke and where do we use AI and where maybe it doesn't make any sense in our use case, you have the full control here. So if I just take one example of a process again, showing where it might make sense. So let's say you have an NDA process. So with my supplier, we both sign an NDA. But now the client actually tells me that we can't sign your NDA, we have our own NDA. Usually now you need to go to your legal department, have them look at the client's NDA, a lot of time lost. So what you might do is have an AI agent comparing your NDA and their NDA and highlighting the differences. So now that you know the differences, you can also say, oh, actually, look at other NDAs I've had before where we had similar differences. Because if we already agreed to an NDA where we had similar differences, maybe we don't need to go over this one all over again with our legal department. So you might want to have those differences summarized. If you have a discussion with the client, you can have that transcripted. AI can capture the sentiment of the negotiation you have with them. So AI can say, oh, was this a positive conversation or are they not too happy? Also in like help desk processes, you can use the sentiment analysis really well. And this way you can save yourself quite a lot of time. What I wanted to show you at the very end. I'm going to skip this part. If you want to hear all about WebCon, you probably have seen the booth. Come speak to us later on. What I want to show you at the very end of the presentation is, like I said, we had a few customer use cases in here. Actually, we have a much nicer example here locally of a project that was done by ETATU. And I will just show you. So this is for the Timișoara municipality. I will step off the stage to make the screen as visible as possible, just to show you what WebCon did for them.
Timișoara este un oraș cu peste 350.000 de locuitori. Suntem o primărie destul de mare, în jur de 500 de angajați și încă câțiva mii în subordinea noastră.
Ne ocupăm cu digitalizare de documente. Primăria va fi la fel ca și o companie multinațională care are sisteme foarte avansate.
Aș fi luat aceiași furnizori. Dacă am fi putut începe de la început cu ei, bineînțeles că eram 2 ani mai avansați.
Acum forțăm tot ecosistemul să vină după noi. Această eficientizare ne lasă să ne focusăm pe ce este important, adică pe partea creativă, pe partea empatică.
99% din primărie, din procedurile ei sunt digitalizate.
N-ai nevoie de studii bine imaginabil de multe tehnice ca să poți lucra cu un program atât de simplu. Vă doresc cât mai multă răbdare. E un proces anevoios câteodată, dar excepțional în momentul în care este finalizat și implementat cu succes.
So, I think the best way of underlining what we do as a platform for our clients is to hear it from our clients. So we actually have some of the actors in the audience here. So if you have more questions, let them prove that this is actually true footage and not just demo material that we just recorded. So they're here with us. Thank you so much for your time. I will save you a few minutes so we can beat the other guys to the coffee machine because there's a massive queue every time. Thank you so much.